Hunger from the Deep, a darn good read original. I wasn't supposed to end up here. This was supposed to be just another adventure. Another week, surviving in an obscure, isolated corner of the world for my YouTube channel. My whole brand revolves around going to forgotten places, battling the elements, and showing my followers how to survive with nothing but the basics. Simple. I show up, rough it for a week, and post the footage. The content writes itself. But this island, this place is like no other. And now, I fear that by the time anyone finds this, I won't be alive to explain why. Let me explain how it all went wrong. The flight to the island seemed normal at first. A small prop plane that would drop me off near Bikini Atoll, a location so isolated no one would think to visit. The idea was perfect. Get dropped off, survive in isolation for a week, capture the footage, and head back home. But the moment I landed, something felt off. The pilot seemed anxious, a bit too eager to get me off the plane. He didn't even wait for me to get all my gear out before he took off again, leaving me alone on the beach with the GoPro strapped to my head, ready to roll. I brushed it off. Maybe it was just his job. At first glance, the island looked like a paradise. Lush trees, pristine beaches, and the relentless crash of waves against the shore. But the more I looked around, the more I felt something wasn't right. It was too quiet. There were no birds, no insects, no animals at all. The air was still, as though the island itself was holding its breath, waiting for something. But I thought, maybe I'm just being paranoid. It's probably nothing. I began setting up my camp, recording everything for my viewers. The usual, collecting coconuts, gathering sticks to make shelter, and sharpening a spear for fishing in the shallows of the ocean. My spear was simple, just a long sharpened stick, but it would work for catching fish just off the shoreline. Still, something gnawed at me. I tried to ignore it, pushing the nagging feeling to the back of my mind. I wasn't here for a vacation. I was here to make content. But then, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the air shifted. It thickened. The temperature didn't change, but the world suddenly felt heavier. The waves grew louder, crashing with an intensity that made the ground beneath me rumble slightly. The trees, once still, now swayed violently in the wind. The silence that had gripped the island all day was gone, replaced by a tension that clawed at my skin. That's when I heard it. A low scrape, almost imperceptible at first, but unmistakable. It was followed by a second scrape, then a third. My heart began to race as I slowly turned around. My mind screamed that it was nothing, that it was just a branch or a fallen rock shifting in the wind. But I knew better. There was something out there. I stood frozen, my hand instinctively gripping the spear as I scanned the tree line. The GoPro on my head wobbled slightly, capturing my unease. I saw nothing. The shadows stretched unnaturally long in the fading light, swallowing the landscape around me. Then came another scrape, louder this time, closer. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't stay there. I turned and bolted into the forest, my feet pounding the ground as I ran. The trees and brush whipped past me in a blur. The scraping sounds followed me, like something was trailing just out of sight, watching my every move. I didn't dare look back. I didn't stop running until I reached the cliffs. Jagged, rocky walls rose up before me, offering a momentary refuge. My chest heavy with ragged breaths as I scrambled up the rocks, my hands slipping against the rough stone. When I finally found a narrow ledge to rest, I collapsed into it, trying to steady my breath, my heart still hammering in my chest. And then I heard it again, the scrape. It wasn't the sound of claws on stone, it was deliberate, rhythmic, like something was testing the earth beneath its feet. The sensation that I was being hunted, that I was being stalked, crept into every fiber of my being. I was trapped. I pressed myself further into the craggy shelter, feeling the cold of the rock against my back. The darkness stretched out before me, but it wasn't the night that made me feel small. It was the weight of the silence, the oppressive quiet that wrapped around me. Something was out there. I didn't have to see it to know that. Then, just beyond the edge of the ledge, I saw it. A shadow. It moved like liquid, sliding from one dark crevice to another. The air seemed to grow colder as it passed. The smell of low tide, salty, briny, and thick with the stink of the ocean clung to it. The moonlight caught its form, and I saw it clearly for the first time. A creature. It was unlike anything I'd seen before. A hulking, crustacean-like monstrosity. Its body was an armored shell, thick and jagged, covered in barnacle-like growths that glistened in the pale light. Its legs were long, like tree branches twisted and gnarled, moving with an unnatural speed despite their size. They scraped against the rock, sending sharp, reverberating noises echoing through the cliffs. Its head was the worst part. The eyes, huge, reflective pools of blackness that stared back at me, glistening like pools of oil. They had no warmth, no humanity, just an endless, empty gaze that pierced right through me. And the mandibles, thick, sharp, twitching, ready to snap at anything that dared to come too close. And then I noticed the others, more of them, moving silently in the shadows, their movements too quick to follow. But I could feel them. I could hear them. Scraping, shifting, circling. They were waiting. I had no choice. I couldn't stay on the ledge forever. My hands were slick with sweat as I gripped the spear, my legs trembling. But I couldn't move. Every part of me screamed to run. But the moment I moved, I knew I'd be dead. I stayed still. I stayed as silent as I could. Minutes passed. Hours. But eventually, the creatures retreated back into the forest. The sound of their claws faded into the distance. I didn't dare move for what felt like an eternity. When I finally peeked over the edge of the ledge, I saw nothing but the quiet night. But the terror didn't fade. It had only just begun. When dawn finally broke, the creatures disappeared, as if the sun's light had scared them away. The silence returned, but it wasn't the same. The island felt wrong. The air thick with something I couldn't quite describe. I found a lagoon with fresh water, which was a relief, but it was a small comfort. The silence of the island is suffocating, and I feel it pressing in on me more each day. The creatures are still out there. I hear them at night, the scraping, the clattering of claws just beyond the tree line. I don't know what they want, but they're watching me, waiting. Then there's the other problem. I can't leave. When I tried to leave, I realized the island wasn't just isolated, it was impossible to escape. The plane that dropped me off, it didn't return. I tried making a signal fire, tried screaming into the wind, but nothing. No response. The island is surrounded by sharp reefs and dangerous currents, and when I tried to swim out, the waves pulled me back, forcing me to turn around. I'm stuck here. There's no way out. The creatures are still watching. I can feel them. They're patient, methodical. They know I'm trapped, and they'll wait. I don't know how much longer I can survive here. My food is running low. I've managed to find shelter in a small cave tucked up in the cliff, but it's only a matter of time before they find me again. They never stop moving. So I'm writing this now. I found a bottle on the shore earlier today. It's the only way I can get a message out. If anyone finds this, if you're reading this, please come to Bikini Atoll. Help me. Please. I don't know how much longer I have.